Hey everyone, it's Chantel. Today we're going to talk about everything you need to know about your brand new Malibu. Taking delivery of a brand new boat is a super exciting, fun day, but there's also a ton of information and it's really easy to, by the time you've gotten home, just forgotten half of it. So I wanted to just do a video of everything I would talk about during a Malibu boat delivery, just as a refresher so you can refer back to it later on when you get home. To launch this boat, I'm going to start at the back of the boat and undo both of the transom straps. And while I'm back there, I'm going to make sure that my transom plug is in. The transom straps here at the back of the trailer, you just pull down on the release lever and lift it all the way up. And that releases it, so you can just let them ratchet back and then they're going to stay on the trailer. And they actually just attach right to the swim platform bracket that's built into the boat. Once I've done that, I climb into the boat and I'm gonna check that my T-plug is in, just in the center compartment here. Those plugs should only be out if you or your service department took them out, but it's not a bad idea just to double check every time you go out and just make sure that they're both in. Turn on the battery switch. When you're actively running the boat, turn it all the way down so it's on battery 1 and 2. If you're just stopped, sitting, listening to music, just have it on one battery, and that way you're not draining both batteries when you're just stopped and the engine isn't running. Then once you're going to turn on the engine again, you can turn it back to battery 1 and 2. When you're not using the boat, definitely make sure you turn the battery switch off. That way you don't accidentally leave something on and it just drains your battery and you can't start the boat next time. I also will put my mirror up. Now there's a little bit of a trick with the standard mirror here. There's a red dot on the side, and if you can see that red dot, that means no matter how tight this knob is, it's still gonna flip up and down. So you want to push the whole mechanism down into the base and then tighten the knob. And then when you're done, you'll just do the reverse. Pull it up, kind of wiggle it up, and then it'll flip down. Seems like a silly thing, but that's one I get called on all the time. Now the first thing I do is push my power button to turn on the system. You hear that blower kick on automatically. It'll do that every time you boot up the entire system. It'll run for 4 minutes and then shut itself off. The nice thing about that is when I'm powering up my computer here at the top of the launch ramp, by the time I back the boat down, it's typically been running long enough and then we're just good to start the boat once we get down there. It'll pop up on the screen every time. It'll ask you if you've watched the watercraft safety video. You can just hit OK or watch it if you want to. Next to the power button is the start-stop button for the engine. The first time I push it, it's gonna ask me for an engine start code. You can change this, you can disable it. Straight from the factory, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, but you can do whatever you want with it long-term. And then once you put in your engine start code, you can push and hold that start-stop button, just like you'd turn and hold a key. I typically don't just quick push it. I push and hold, let it turn over, and then let go. Same thing to turn it off, push and hold, let it shut off. I don't like to push the power button to shut everything down. It's kind of like pulling the plug. It's on a radio that's running. Just turn the start-stop button, turn off the engine, and then you can power down the system. Just a quick overview of the screens, kind of some hot buttons. All of your vitals are going to be up at the top here. So air temperature, water temp, your time of day, all your oil pressure, engine temperature, and your battery voltage. Battery voltage around 12 volts is ideal to be able to start the boat and to actually run. 155 to 165 on engine temperature is great. In these boats, you want to make sure that you give them time to warm up before you just gun the engine and take off. They aren't really designed to be run at wide open throttle for long periods of time, so I would make sure that you let it warm up before you take off with a rider, but also just don't run it full throttle for a really long time. Oil pressure's up there. Depth is going to be in your upper left-hand corner as well. This go home button to me looks a little bit like a go home to the main screen. That's not what that is. That's the preset, the go home, get ready to go back to the dock, dump ballast, put your wedge up, put surf gate back, and then turn off your cruise control. So that's their go home preset. Docking mode is a little bit of a throttle reducer, so your idle is going to be the same, but your RPMs just won't get as high as fast. So if you're teaching somebody new how to dock the boat, or if you're out for your first couple times on there, you can turn that on and just kind of help protect yourself. First screen here, that's going to be our ballast screen. It shows us our 4 hard ballast tanks. We can fill all, drain all, stop all where they are. We could pick up individual ballast as well. Really, I very rarely use this screen. I'm typically using my presets. If I'm surfing right or surfing left, I'm just gonna pick that up, hit load, and that's gonna get the boat fully ready to go. And that way, there's no guesswork, it's just gonna do it for me. And then I just adjust where I want the wedge. That's how I'm really gonna change the shape of the weight. Next screen over, great cruising screen. It's just gonna show you your depth. This is where you're gonna see your PDF version of your owner's manual, the watercraft safety videos in there if you wanted to upload something, if you had the reverse camera or the docking camera. And the next screen over is what's gonna show you just bigger versions of your vitals here. RPMs, how many hours are on the boat, oil pressure, and engine temperature, and battery voltage. On this side, we've got all of our wake devices. So SurfGate, whether it's surf left, surf right, or center, you can see all of our ballast tanks and how full or empty they are. And then right now my wedge is in the stowed position. The little highlighted blue, that's where I want it to be. So that's showing where I want it to be. The actual line, the blue line, that's where the wedge is. I don't want to put it down right now because you have to actually be moving for it to come back up. But if I were to touch one of these, they would turn that blue, the shaded blue, and then that line would shortly follow. Night vision, that's going to dim the screen down. So if it's later in the evening, it's just going to make it a little less bright so it doesn't just blind you. Super simple screen, really easy to use, and it's just the kind of thing that I'd say when you get it home, just kind of run through your screens and see, get familiar with everything with the system. A couple hot buttons here with the wedge. You have to be moving to put it down and to bring it all the way back up into stow. And when I say moving, I mean 1 or 2 miles an hour. You don't want to be going really fast. You don't want to be going, you don't want to just be sitting still at 0 miles an hour. You definitely want to be going, 1 or 2 miles an hour, and then you can put it down. So if I were to pick up a preset right now, it's not actually going to put the wedge down where it needs to go until I start moving. So if you have a rider out there, you want to make sure you go into gear, give it a second, let it go to where it's going to go, and then you can take off. Same thing, you hit the go home button, it's dumping everything and bringing you back to, getting you ready to go back to the dock. Idle for just a minute, go 1 or 2 miles an hour, and then let it come all the way up into stow, and then you're good to take off. With SurfGate, even if I push surf right here, you can see how it's just shaded. It's not actually blue over there. Nothing happened. When I push that button, nothing happens until I start going faster than about 8 miles an hour. Then it's going to extend. It will shift the boat. You're gonna feel it, you're gonna have to account for it with the wheel, and then you're just driving straight again. The nice thing about that is when I pull off the throttle, it's gonna close back up. Once I start going slower than 8, it's gonna close back up, and it's not going to impede how the boat handles when I'm just idling back to my rider. Then I pick up my rider, they have the rope, I start going, it'll extend again until I tell it not to, until I say center, no more SurfGate. So super easy system to use. Just make sure that you let the wedge do its thing while you're idling, and then you can take off. The small screen here, this is more ambiance, what's going on inside the boat. So we've got all of our lighting controls, the anchor and navigation light, interior storage lights, docking underwater lights, tower lights if you have them. Next screen over, that's your stereo. The power button there is what turns it on. And you can pair. When you go to pair, it tells you what you're looking for, and then you can find that on your phone and then connect to it. If you hit mixer here, this is a really cool way to make some adjustments to how loud everything is. Auto volume is such a cool feature. When you turn that on, as your RPMs get higher, the stereo volume gets louder automatically, so you're not constantly turning it up and turning it down if you stop and need to talk to your rider. The switch screen here, you have a forward bilge and a rear bilge. They are automatic. They will come on if necessary. They have floats. But if you know you have a ton of wet kids coming in or it's pouring rain, you can turn them on automatically or on your own manually. The one thing I would note with the bilge, these boats, they don't have, there's no more carpet in them, right? Most of them are gonna have soft grip flooring, so there's nothing to absorb all of that water. When people come in wet, or if you take a bow wave, a lot of water is gonna be in the bottom of the boat. It's normal for your bilge to come on a couple times throughout a day. If it's coming on a lot, then I would start doing some investigating. I would try to figure out where the water's coming from, but it's normal for sure for it to come on a couple times throughout the day. Blower I can turn on and off automatically or manually here, and then I could turn them all off. If I had everything running, I could just turn it all off right there. The Sport Dash here is a really cool feature. It's quick controls. Everything you can do on the Sport Dash, you can do in the touchscreen. This is just a little more quick control, so you don't have to find it on the touchscreen. So if you want to activate a surf transfer, you can put the wedge up and down. The stereo volume you can adjust. You can quick mute the stereo. Next track, if you push it that way. Up on cruise control or down on cruise control if you push it that way. I like this for everything. The wedge, I would be a little bit careful how you use this. If you have somebody back riding and you're not just at an idle speed, if you try to put the wedge up and you push and hold it, it might think you're trying to put the wedge all the way up or put the wedge all the way down. It might end up in a setting that you didn't want it to be in. So I would just be really careful. Push it once, let it do its thing. Push it again, let it do its thing. I really like the touchscreen to control the wedge, but you can use this. I would just be deliberate about how you're using it. Down here, you've got your horn. There is a USB outlet here. I would not use that one to charge a phone. That's where we add updates or you add files if you wanted to upload something to the system. So the screen is going to be looking for an upload and it could just freeze the whole system. In the driver dry box down below, there is a USB port for charging, so you could run a cord through there and put it on your phone if you have it in the cell phone holder. When you get a boat from us, you're gonna find a few things in the glove box. One of them is Surf Band. This is a really cool tool. If you understand how the wake works and what the wedge is doing, I wouldn't just give this to everybody that gets back there behind your boat. Same as the Sport Dash with this, and when you use it for the wedge, be very deliberate. Push it, let it do its thing, push it again. Don't just push and hold. It might think you're trying to put it all the way up or all the way down. Speed control, that's awesome, super cool to be able to adjust. Surf transfer, if you want to be surfing on one side, jump over, surf on the other side, you can activate that from behind the boat. And then you can also control the tower speaker volume, which to me is worth every penny on this thing. You also get the microfiber towel for your mirror, so easy to clean off the mirror. And then I like to leave these in, and these are, if you find these in your boat, what they are is the caps for the plug and play hoses. So we take these off of the hoses from the factory and we plug in the ballast bags. I like to keep these on the boat. Hopefully you will never ever need them, but just throw them somewhere that you can forget about them. They're not in the way. But if something were to happen, say you're on a week-long vacation and one of your ballast bags gets punctured or a seal rips or something happens, you still want to be able to use at least the hard tanks in the boat. So you can cap these, you can put these caps in, and then you can still fill up the hard tanks. You just won't have the bags. So I like to have these in the boat on the off chance something happens, just in case. Hopefully you'll never need them, but they're there if you do. Putting the tower down on this boat is super easy. You'll do the two handles on both sides, and it's gas shock assisted, so once you undo the handles, it's not just gonna fall forward. So you undo the handles on both sides. You also wanna tip the bimini top. So I'm gonna unclip the strap that's holding the bimini to the tower. Then I'm gonna pull out the pin on either side, flip the whole thing up, and lock it into place there. And now I can pull the whole tower down. If you need it to stay down very low, I would recommend getting some kind of a strap or something to be able to either tie it to the driver's seat or to the steering wheel. Otherwise, the gas shock is going to let it kind of fly up a little bit. If you just have to back it down, get it in the garage, and put it right back up, I would just have somebody in here holding it down for a second. If you need it to be as low as it possibly can be, you'll probably need to take the racks off. So there is just a little set screw on here, you undo that, and then the whole rack slides off. When you take those off, I would recommend not setting them directly on the seats or on the soft grip flooring. It can leave indentations or maybe cut the vinyl or something. So I would probably get a towel or something to put a barrier between the rack and the floor or the rack and your seats. The bimini top, super easy to set up. You unclip each strap on either side and then unzip the boot. Little Velcro piece there to make sure it doesn't unzip until you want it to. Now the whole bimini top is designed to slide forward. I'll unwrap it and then I'm just gonna clamshell it open. I want to make sure it slips as far forward as it possibly can be before I try to pull it down tight. And then I'm going to slide in the attachments on either side. The Velcro straps here are just an extra way to make sure it's really tight. So over time, as the canvas stretches, you can use that Velcro strap to really pull it tight and make sure it's not just flapping around in the wind. To put it away, it's just the reverse of putting it up. To get the boat ready to tow, I want to make sure that the bimini is put away if I'm going to be driving faster than the boat would go. So if you're just driving 35 or so on just down the street to get to the launch ramp, great, keep it up if you want to. If you're going to be going on the freeway, definitely make sure it's all wrapped up and it's tight and strapped to the tower. I also am going to put my mirror down. And then I like to put the windscreen in. And close the windshield. That way the air is just gonna come right over the top and it's not gonna be blowing anything. I can actually put gear down here if I want to, or tucked underneath the driver's feet area, just to keep it protected from blowing out of the boat. For the board racks, I would definitely make sure they're empty before you tow anywhere. You don't wanna tow with boards in the racks. It's a lot of wind pressure and you might end up breaking a board. And then I like to tow with them straight back. That's just the least amount of surface area, so you're gonna have the least amount of bugs to clean off. And this is how I would tow the boat whenever possible. I don't like to tow with the cover on. It's not gonna hurt the cover really to tow with it, but it can just run wind up and down, just right on the gunnels of the boat, and it can chafe it and just make it look really dull. It can scratch it, and then you're gonna need a cut and a buff. So I would tow without the cover on whenever possible. If you have to tow with the cover on, maybe you have a ton of gear in the boat, or it's a terrible rainy day, or really bad weather, I would take a big Home Depot roll of plastic wrap and just run it around the gunnels and then put the cover on, just to put a barrier between the cover and the gunnel so you don't just get it all scratched up. Start at the back of the boat when you're taking the cover off, and when you undo the ratchet straps, after you've undone them, zip this back up. I've seen these flop around and they can ding the gel coat and maybe take a chip out of it. So make sure when you're not actively doing the ratchet that they're actually closed up. As I'm rolling the cover up, I'm trying to keep it tight like a sleeping bag, and I'm folding it in as I go so it stays really compact and easier to store. The way that I roll the cover up makes it really easy when I need to put the cover back on. I can just start at the bow and clip it. And then once it's clipped, that kind of keeps the bow in place as I start to unroll it. If you have a pickle fork, you definitely want to wrap the cover around the forks. And then I just unroll and spread it out. So that's your brand new Malibu boat. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you like this video, hit like, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more stuff like this. We'll see you on the water.